Okay, the last thing we're learning is in Berchus Krishma, which is between after Baruch Hu and Shmoneh Esrei. So we said you're not allowed to answer all Amens. You can only answer Amen after Kel HaKadosh, Shema Kaleinu. After somebody who has an Aliyah Berchus HaTorah, you could answer Amen. But generally speaking, those are, or if you said Yotzei HaMa'oris and then the Chazan said it, so then you're allowed to answer Amen on the bracha of Yotzei HaMa'oris. But otherwise, during that part that's called Birchas Krishma, the brachas of Krishma, you're not allowed to answer any Amen, just those few Amens that we mentioned. Amen Yeshmei Rabba you can answer and so on. Now, what happens if you're middle of davening and they're saying Kedusha? So, according to the Alter Rebbe, you cannot say Nagdishach. That everybody says you can't. Kodesh, and Baruch, everybody says you can say. The Alter Rebbe holds also Yimleich, you can also say, at least in Siddur he holds that you also can say Yimleich. So in other words, if you're in the middle of, before Shema or after Shema, or in the middle of Shema, and you hear the Chazan getting to Kedusha, so you stop where you are, you stand obviously with your feet together. The first sentence, Nagdishach, you do not say, but then you answer Kodesh and Baruch and Yimleich. That's what you're allowed to answer in the middle of Pesukei de Zimra. Okay, next. Now we come to the dinim, what? I'm talking about Birchas Krishma. It's a Pesukei de Zimra? No, it's, okay. You don't answer. You don't answer. In Shmoneh Esrei, you're allowed to daven things. You can add what you want to Shema Kaleinu, but you're still not allowed to answer anything that's like Amen, Kedusha, Baruch, or nothing. You have to stop and listen, but you're not allowed to answer Amen. The only time you're allowed to answer in middle of Shmoneh Esrei is after Yilurat and Imri Fivagini B'Lefenach Hashem Tzuri V'Goyali, right before Lokai Nitzor. Then you can answer like in Pesukei de Zimra. Once you said Elokai Nitzor, then you can only answer what you say in Birchas Krishma. That means if the Chazan's repeating the Shmoneh Esrei and you're in the middle of Elokai Nitzor, you can only answer Kodesh Baruch and Yimleich. If you didn't start Elokai Nitzor, but you said Yiluratzin, then you could answer like you do in Pesukei de Zimra, then you'd be allowed to answer Nagdishach also. No. Baruch Hu you don't say only when you're mamish allowed to talk. Okay, next. Now you have Krishma itself. Now, what's the earliest time one is allowed to say Shema? So, the halacha is talking lechatchila, what's called Mishayakir, which is at the same time technically you can make a bracha on talis and tefillin. Mishayakir means, okay, let me just say in the morning schedule of events, of time-wise, you have Aleisa Shachar, which is dawn, or the morning star, whichever one you want to call it. Then you have sunrise. No, sorry. After dawn, you have what's called Mishayakir. Mishayakir literally means, halachically, that you can recognize a friend that's so-so friend, 6 feet away. Now, obviously, we talk without the lights. That is light enough that you can recognize a friend that you're semi-common with, that you can recognize him 6 feet away. That is the time of Shiyakah. Now, in halacha, really, generally speaking, the poskim don't give a time for that. And therefore, there's different times and different calendars. You'll see a whole bunch of different times. And then you have sunrise. Okay? So you have like this. Aleisa Shachar, which is dawn or morning star. Then you have Mishayakir, which is the time for talis and tefillin and the earliest time to read the Shema. Then you have Netzacham, which is sunrise. Then you have Zman Krishma, which is 3 hours into the day. Then you have Zman Tefillah, which is the 4th hour and up to the 4th hour into the day. And then you have Chatzais, okay, the midday. So these are the morning halachic times that exist in halach. 1 second. So, Aleisa Shachar, there's a big argument in halacha from when to when is a day. is a day from sunrise to sundown, or is a day from dawn to nightfall. Okay, there's two major opinions in halacha. Is it from dawn to nightfall, or is it sunrise to sunset? Okay? Now, in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe rules it's from dawn to nightfall, which is a longer day, obviously. In Siddur, the Alter Rebbe changes his mind or whatever, but the Alter Rebbe holds, and this is the way we paskin, that a day is from sunrise to sundown. Sunrise to sundown is the definition of the day. And that is relevant, by the way, to a lot of dinim. If you have a look in a calendar, they tell you, Zman Krishma, right, of the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, or Zman Krishma of the Magen Avraham. Now, the Magen Avraham is one that paskins that a day is from dawn to nightfall. If you count those days, that hourly, Zman Krishma is about a half an hour earlier than the other opinion. Approximately half an hour before the Gra. The Alter Rebbe happens to hold like the Gra, that the day is sunrise to sundown, and based on that, Krishma is approximately close to half an hour after the first opinion. Okay, because the day starts earlier, Zman Krishma is going to be earlier. And same thing with Zman Tefillah. So if you ever look at a calendar, when it says Zman, the time for Shema, latest Shema, it'll say Magen Avraham this time, and then Gra this time. But what it says Gra is what the Alter Rebbe holds also, that's what we hold. So the day is, now how do you count the day? So this we learned already. If day is from sunrise to sundown, okay, how do you count the day? Now, halachically, a day has 12 hours. A day has 12 hours. What does it mean, 12 hours? So you figure out from sunrise to sundown, okay, how many hours in the day plus how many minutes, because it's not always exactly 6 to 6, it's, whatever. So you have to figure out how many minutes there are from sunrise to sundown. Okay, divide that into 12, and that's how long halachic hours are. Okay? Sometimes you can have a 70-minute hour, you can have a 50-minute hour. Like in the winter, the day shorter, you have approximately a 50-minute hour. Summertime, you can have a 70-minute hour, and usually, middle is 60. But you don't have such a thing as 50. It could be 51 minutes per hour, 52 minutes, But usually it ranges approximately 50 minutes in the winter. In the spring and fall, it's 60 minutes an hour. And I'll give you an example. Asar B'Tevis, the fast begins here in LA, 5:47, and the day ends at 5:31. That, by the way, is dawn to nightfall, because the fast begins at dawn, and the fast ends at nightfall. But as far as the day usually goes, as far as Krishma, Tefillah, Chatzeis, whenever it is, how do you figure out an hour in halacha? According to the practical halacha, the way we hold, sunrise to sundown, how many minutes there are in that day, divided by 12, that's how many minutes each hour has. If you go by the other opinion, dawn to nightfall, so again, you have to know what time dawn is, what time nightfall is, you divide that by 60, that means you've divided how many minutes there are, divided by 12, and that's how many minutes you have per halachic hour. But again, practical halacha is what we call from sunrise to sundown. Now, the earliest time, not for Taos and Tefillin. Now, technically, lechatchila, a day is from sunrise to sundown. That means mitzvahs you have to do during the day, lechatchila should be done after sunrise. But halacha writes clearly that if a person has to go to work or whatever it is, they're allowed to even lechatchila daven after dawn. Okay? Now, Hanachas Tefillin, making a bracha on Tefillin could be after dawn. It is after dawn. The question is how many minutes after dawn it is. And also the question is, what time when is dawn in relationship to sunrise? Okay? Now, another very important is going to come up when they keep daylight savings in the winter, if they ever do that, chas v'shalom. But if they keep daylight savings in the winter, so when a very big problem, like there was one year in New York in 73, because of the oil embargo, the whole country kept daylight savings the whole year. It was a total disaster because in the winter, then sunrise was like 7:30 or even later. And kids were walking to school, mamish in pitch black. People couldn't daven. You couldn't daven 6 o'clock. It was a very big problem because sunrise was 7:30 or even later. 8 o'clock was sunrise. But so then there was a whole issue. Now, dawn, the Gemara says, dawn is 4 mil before sunrise. Okay, sunrise we basically know. You look in the sunrise, it says, in every calendar, you can go on your phone, you'll see what time sunrise is. Dawn is, the Gemara says, 4 mil before sunrise. Okay? Now, how much is a mil? A mil is translated, interesting, in English is translated as a Persian mile. A Persian mile, a mil, is 2,000 amas, which is between 3,000 and 4,000 feet. So it's less than a mile. Okay, the amount it takes to walk a mil. Now, in halacha, there's an argument. It's very important what I'm saying now because it's relevant when times for davening come, when people say to me, how could you daven 6 o'clock? So I'm explaining why we do what we do. So a mil is so sunrise before, dawn before sunrise is 4 mil. Okay, now how long does it take halachically to walk a mil? So there's two opinions, the general opinions in halacha. One says 18 minutes, and one says 72 minutes. 24 minutes, sorry. I'm just calculating wrong. Okay, one is 18 minutes a mil, and another opinion says 24 minutes a mil. So if you figure 18 minutes a mil, then dawn is 72 minutes before sunrise. Okay? If you hold a mil is 24 minutes, then 4 mil is 96 minutes, which is a lot earlier. Then a mil is 96 minutes. Then when would Aleisa Shachar be? Not 72 minutes before sunrise, but 96 minutes before sunrise. Okay? Got it? Now, according to the Alter Rebbe paskins in Hilchos Pesach, that the halacha is that a mil is 24 minutes. That's how he paskins. But, l'chumra, like for instance, the Gemara says, how long does it take dough when it mixes the flour and water together? How long does it take to become chametz? The Gemara says it takes a mil. The amount of time it takes to make a mil. So we know, everybody make sure, you always hear the 18 minutes from the time they mix the flour and the water until it's out of into the oven, at least. In the oven. So we pass, over there it's l'chumra, because it's from chametz, so we pass 18 minutes, not 24 minutes. But when it comes to davening, the Alter Rebbe, you can pass like the Alter Rebbe, that it's 24 minutes per mil, which means technically, b'shas tzchak, you're allowed to daven aleisa shachar, would be 96 minutes before sunrise. Now, how much is Mishiyakir after sunrise? After aleisa shachar. When is Mishiyakir? So some calendars have it 20 minutes after, 25 minutes after. You look in different calendars, you see a different time. According to, there's a Prima Godim that holds that 6 minutes after Aleisa Shachar is Mishiyakir. That's what the Prima Godim holds. And I'll give you an example. Where am I here? Simple Luach. 1 second. Today, January 1st, I'll give you an example. Here they write, morning star, which is dawn, 5:39. Talis, 6:03, which is 44 minutes. Right? No. Yeah, 6:03, no, 5:39 And Talis is 6:03. I'm sorry. Yeah, 24 minutes. 24 minutes. Okay, then they write, for instance, sunrise 6:59. Okay, latest Shema Mogen Avram 8:52. Latest Shema Gra today would be 9:28. So it's a big difference of these times. So the pearl, bottom line is, a person should try to put on tefillin as late as possible, in reference to after dawn. But again, so a lot of things depend on the times and how necessity and out of that. Yes, sir.
You can, I heard, but you can do all the morning prayers up to Korbanut. Korbanut, you have to wait for Halacha Shafar, and then you can do Korbanut.
Korbanos you could do earlier, even though it's preferred not to. Because the Korban Tamid,
they didn't do it
until after Leisa Shachar. So it's preferable not to do it before Leisa Shachar.
And then you have to say the Shema in the morning prayers. You skip that, or you say that?
The Korbanos?
No, in the morning prayers, like let's say you start at 5, you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You can say Shema at 5 o'clock.
No.
In the morning prayers, it's there.
Oh yeah, but you're not yet in the mitzvah of Shema. You can say Shema whole day. I mean, doesn't.
How about the brachos? It says 5:39. You mentioned. How far before that when you start saying the brachos?
Yeah, like Tuesday morning before we eat.
The morning brachos.
Okay, brachos you could say, if you wake up after midnight, halachic midnight, and you're planning to stay up, yes, you could say all of brachos. Except the bracha Nesin Asech Vivina, that one bracha for the rooster, that it says in halacha you shouldn't say until after rooster time. But all the other brachas you could say before, if you're planning to stay up. If you're planning to go back to sleep, then not.
If you sleep when you get up at, let's say, 5 o'clock.
And you're planning to stay up,
After 5 o'clock.
then you could say all the brachas again. If it's too early, Nesin Asech Vivina, you just wait and say it later. What? It should be after dawn at least, or, What? It's late. What? No, we're going to get there. What the Chassidic world are not into that, but there's what's called vesikin. Vesikin means people are very meticulous in mitzvahs. It says that you're right. He brings it down also that they would daven, say daven a little bit before sunrise. That you finish Krishma and the brachas at sunrise, and then right away you daven Shemoneh Esrei. But in the Chassidic world, we don't do it. Okay, Machin is a ma'aser ma'amachamei b'mayim kim shivla agal teira, and then Melech Hashem Meridot to get the brachas.